Breaking a multi-year trend, preliminary numbers show Nebraska farmland values retreating in 2015. UNL's Department of Ag Economics released its initial report Wednesday, tracking overall values as well as cash rental rates. The department obtains its estimates from land appraisers, farm managers, and ag finance professionals in the state. Actual numbers may vary in your area, and final values and rates are subject to change when final results are published in June. Earlier this week, we talked about the survey with Jim Jansen, a Nebraska Extension educator and one of the report's authors.
The preliminary farm values from the Nebraska Farm Real Estate Survey have shown that the average value of farmland in the state of Nebraska has declined a little bit, about 3% compared to last year at this time, to about $3,210 an acre.
Where is it coming from? What is the value of cropland versus the value of the land used for livestock?
It's a little bit of a mixed bag. On the land side for the crops, on the dryland crop ground or the crop ground that's not irrigated, we're seeing a little bit higher rate of decline, softening of the land values of around 10% or so. On the irrigated crop side, it's not declining quite as much, and it's more around a 5% decline on average across the state. For the land classes that the cow-calf industry utilizes, such as hayland or the grazing land, those land classes have seen a pretty robust increase over last year, around that 10 to 15% range on average across the state.
Sorry, would that show then that the market is somewhat responsive to the commodity price cycle that we're in?
Right. The major land values as well as the rental rates are probably showing some of the potential margins associated with those industries of the folks that are operating in them. And I would say the current commodity prices are kind of reflecting some of the major trends that we're seeing in the industry right now.
Now, what about in cash rates for cropland? Does that agree with that?
The rental rates for crop ground are following some similar trends to the appraised or estimated appraised value. We're seeing some declines in that 10% range for irrigated as well as dryland crop ground. And on the pasture side, we're seeing a little bit different story as we did on the land value side. We're seeing rates of increase of around 10% or so, depending on where you're at for the state, as well as the cow-calf pair rental rates. They're also increasing quite rapidly as well.
Now, you're in a unique situation here where you're officed in Hartington in the Northeast District, which across all districts in Nebraska, the Northeast is the most expensive or tied for the most expensive in all areas of land. Is that something unique, or is any reason behind that?
Sure. The Northeast District, we still have a pretty good presence up there of the cow-calf as well as the feedlot industry. So if you're having positive margins on that side, that might be supporting still some of the cropland or cropland rental rates. As well as we still have pretty available water sources up there, and the ground is pretty productive on average depending on where you're at.
When you talk to the people who participate in this study, is there anything that they bring up about the future of these land prices or the conversations that go on between those renting and those with the land?
Sure. One point of contention that some of the land managers have voiced to me that some of their clients are dealing with the landlords comes up around the point of property taxes for the landowners, which are continually climbing in the state because of our tax laws. So the landowners are having higher land ownership expenses, but the land tenants, they have historically been paying very high rates, and their margins are getting tightened up this upcoming year, or they're foreseen to be a little bit tighter this upcoming year. And it can create a little contention with some of the negotiations, and that's why it's important to have good communication for both parties involved.
As mentioned, the Northeast District led the state in cash rent prices. It was $50 an acre more expensive than the next closest district in dryland crop ground rates, and $70 an acre more expensive in cropland with center pivots. That category, at $375 an acre, featured an average cost of $440 an acre for the top third quality of land. On the Crop Watch website, you can read more about this year's preliminary report on Nebraska farmland values with more resources, including a further breakdown of districts and maps for the state. We'll link to that material on the Market Journal homepage.